Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Thursday, March 13th meeting of the Albany Community Police Review Board. My name is Nairobi Vives. I'm the chair. I am now calling tonight's meeting to order. Tony, can you lead us in roll call?
Sure. Chair Nairobi Vives.
Present.
John Lewandowski. Dr. Vanilla Harding. Paul Collins Hackett. Victor Person.
Here.
And Reverend Dr. Victor is excused absence. Yes.
We also have our newest member, Emily Sowick.
Here.
Thank you. Thank you, Tony.
I apologize.
Oh, nope. We're always changing, right? Thank you, Tony. Moving on to the next item in tonight's agenda, the approval of the January 9th, 2025 minutes. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, John. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Or any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, so moved. Moving on to changes in the agenda. Any motions to amend tonight's agenda? Hearing none, I will move on to our public comment period. For anyone here, there's not really anyone here, but anyone that may be online, if you would like to speak, please limit your comments to 3 minutes. And Shaniqua or Brian, can you let me know if anyone's raising their hand? Okay. So no public comment. I will move on to our next item on the agenda. Detective Lieutenant Riddy, do you have a report from the Office of Professional Standards?
There we are. Right. Evening, everybody. So from the Office of Professional Standards, I figured I'd just go over a couple of things that we've been dealing with. Since our last meeting in January, the Office of Professional Standards has received 6 new complaints during that time period. The Office of Professional Standards is also closed out or in the process of like supervisory review where they come to me. 16 complaints, so we are trending downward. I know that has been a long-standing we've been trying to address the timeliness that's been brought up by some of the people. So we're trending downward to get more caught up on our cases. So I appreciate everyone's patience in that. The subpoenas that were issued to APD in relation to the January 5th incident and I forget the CC number for the other incident, I think it was 2022-002. Yeah. Those should be moving through the chains if they're not already in the hands of the investigative committees, so that they should be all squared away. I do know there are some technical issues with the relation to CC 2022-002 as far as making the links available to both the investigative committee and the officer that was subpoenaed. Apparently the link was supplied, but it was unable to be broadcast for whatever reason, so we've rectified that issue, so that should be squared away. I'll let the members from TNM speak further on that. I just wanted to address that issue from our end. I don't know what caused that, but it's been since rectified. Other matters, we're currently doing the hiring. I know I brought that up. We're in our final stages of that to hopefully have our applicant pool complete and actually swear in new officers come May 5th. That is our seems to be our solid date on that one. I don't know if there's any more logistics to be worked out behind the scenes for that, but that's what we're aiming for is May 5th. Also, the Citizens Police Academy is scheduled to start April 16th. So if anyone's interested in attending that, either from here or in the community, April 16th. Historically, there has been a link on the city website. I just got notified of that date today, so that link is not up as of yet, but historically it has been on the city website, so if anyone's interested in that, I mean, they can reach out to members of the Albany Police Department, CPRB, or check out the city website further. But that is all that I have. Is there anything from the members here?
Just quick, do we know how many officers that might maybe coming in on May 5th?
I don't, because we're still going through the background process on that. And ultimately, it's up to the chief's decision as far as who gets brought in and all that. So I won't speak to the chief on that bit. But we are hopeful for a decent turnout and having a decent academy class to assist this upcoming May.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Detective Lieutenant Ritty?
Real quick, thank you for your time and for being here. You said there were 6 new complaints since the January meeting, and you said there were 16 under review. I'm just clarifying.
So 16 complaints that are either under review, so they're in the process of coming, they're either at my desk or going between my desk and the detective's desk, or completed. The breakdown of that is 9 complaints have been completed in that period. 7 complaints are in review, currently working their way through my revisions and the detective's revisions.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you so much, Detective Lieutenant Ritty. I will move on now to the next item on the agenda, board member announcements. Very excited to announce that we have a new member of the CPRB, Emily Soek, and I will turn the floor over to you to share a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I don't know, I'm not good with microphones. You guys can hear me? Small room, right?
I think, so people can hear you online, if you just push so the green light comes on.
Oh, it is, I'll move closer.
It looks good.
Thank you. My name is Emily Soek. I'm a longtime resident of the city of Albany. I grew up here. I grew up a block below Quail and Washington on Spring. I always like to clarify because Spring breaks up quite a bit. I owned a house on Delaware Ave for a very long time, and I just moved to the Shaker Park area. So I've lived in various areas all over the city, went to public schools in Albany growing up. I'm currently the principal at St. Anne Institute. I was a longtime global history teacher and work experience coordinator, so I've spent a lot of time with families in crisis, marginalized youth, and I frequently come in contact with the Albany Police Department. Many of those contacts are really positive, but I've certainly been in some situations where I wish things had gone a little bit different. I guess that's my personal background and kind of what brings me here, or professional background, juvenile justice. I also had a best friend. He passed away, and he was a black male schizophrenic. And I had a lot of kind of contact sometimes with the police department as it pertained to him. I was always the closest person that could get to him outside of his family. And many of those contacts with the police, he was never a violent person, were so perfect. You know, people really paying attention to this person was in a mental health crisis. And then we had some instances where, you know, isolated instances where that really wasn't the experience. You know, being a 20 or 30-year-old younger girl who shows up, I don't necessarily know if my pleas for him were always well heard. And I guess if you add those two things together, my interest here is that when we are in positions of authority, and I'm in a position of authority at St. Anne all day, I've seen staff in the past do things that if anybody ever did to my child, I wouldn't be sitting in front of you. I'd be in prison. Oversight is a good thing. When the New York State Justice Center came about, it really cleaned up what we do professionally with children in care. So the opportunity to be on an oversight committee where we can really look at professional standards and really make sure that people in positions of authority demonstrate professionalism all the time. Again, I work with the police a lot. I think they do a great job. But sometimes when you come short, you might need a little bit of additional training. That's how I approach it at work. Or sometimes you're just not right for the job. And you shouldn't be in a position of authority if you don't have the right personality. So I do a lot of work at work with OCFS, oversight, corrective actions, training plans for staff, safety plans for kids. So I'm familiar with navigating rules, regulations, modifying behaviors, creating policies that assist with, with rectifying pervasive issues that you may find when people are in positions of authority, and someone else might be from a community that's marginalized. So that's what brings me here, and I hope that suffices.
It absolutely does. Thank you for your interest, and thank you for joining our team. Dr. Hardin says a lot, to remember your why, so it was really great to hear about your why, why you're interested in oversight, and I'm glad we'll get you into the mix and get you going soon. So thank you for being here tonight.
I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Moving on to our next item on the agenda, the report from the chair. I will keep it brief tonight, but to everyone listening, to everyone here, we are in a period of transition. So thank you, everyone in the community, our partners at APD, and our internal partners, our attorneys, our investigative team. Thank you for your patience through that process. Updates on hiring our program director and eventually the rest of our staff. We are in the process. We have completed first round interviews and are moving into finalizing second round interviews. So hopefully at our next meeting, we will have further updates on where we are with our program director hiring. We are also in the process of moving forward with reissuing an RFP for consultants for our oversight board. We were able to tour our new office space on Central Ave. Very nice. Hoping to get that filled with staff and get it up and running soon. I did just want to, there is a lot going on right now with the election cycle starting, and we're having a lot of candidates talk about their positions on oversight in the city. I've joined a few meetings. I'm glad to hear that public safety is on the top of our candidates' minds, and also the mention of the CPRB remains there. We will continue to be active in the community and making sure we are listening out to hear their views on oversight and keep oversight in Albany as a top priority. I think we'll hear also a little later from Tony, who also was able to join the recent public safety meeting that the mayor and the chief put together. But that concludes my report. Any questions for me? Hearing none. Moving on to our CPRB committee reports. First up, Tony, do you have a report from the Bylaws and Rules Committee?
Nothing new at this moment. As soon as we get some staff, we'll start commencing with our meetings.
Thank you, Tony. Moving on to community outreach. Batman, do you have a report from the Community Outreach Committee?
Yes. So we've been having a bunch of meetings with different neighborhood groups. Tony and myself were on a call with the South End Neighborhood Association, various stakeholders on that call who had different questions as to our processes, our goals, and how they could help. We explained to them what we've been doing, asked them to, join meetings, share information, and, feel free to express their concerns. We'd assist as best as possible. In addition, I had a meeting with the Albany Justice Coalition, same idea. Same thing with the Center for Law and Justice, had a meeting with them as well, and we discussed our partnerships and how we could work more closely together. We're in the process of drafting a summer calendar with events, something that Michelle was, super on top of back in the good old days. But now we have to come up with a calendar, so we're rapidly filling that calendar. The rest of the board, anyone from the community is more than welcome to let us know when and where they're having events. We'd love the table. We have lots of cool merch to give away as we have conversations. And then in addition to that, I've been working with a group who wants to establish a review board on the county level. There's been a lot of stuff going on with the Albany County jails and different incarcerated populations. So the ask specifically has been of the sheriff to work with the community to develop a community oversight board of some sort that can address county concerns. So the group has asked me to share our journey, things we've faced, uphill battles, how to kind of make that work and how to work with the sheriff's office in that way. So I'm assisting on that as well. So for community outreach, that's what we've been doing, meeting with a bunch of different various stakeholders. The county initiative is something new, and we're preparing for the summer.
Thank you, Batman. Tony, do you want to give a short report on the meeting that you attended?
Sure. On this past Tuesday, the 11th, I attended a community event titled Building Safe Communities in the South End, and it was held at Giffen Elementary School. Mayor Sheehan and Chief Cox conducted a community conversation about building a safer Albany. The community reported several areas of concern, which were noted by the mayor and Chief Cox. Several members of the community attended posing questions, and they in turn were provided with the most recent statistics regarding what APD reported as a decline in crime in Albany. The community event is scheduled to be a full series. They're hoping to have, I think it's 4 more in different areas of Albany, and I encourage the community and board members to attend. It was pretty informative.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you for representing the board at that meeting. Like Tony said, I would encourage CPRB attendance at all of them. I was intending to go to the meeting at Giffen and couldn't make it, so I'm glad that Tony was there to represent, but I think it's important that we continue to be a part of the conversation when it comes to public safety, given what we do. And Batman, thank you for your work in the community. Like I said, we are transitioning, but we are still committed to our mission. To your point about the organization that's trying to organize at the county level, I do want to just reiterate, I think we've talked about LEMIO many times, but for members of the community that have complaints about law enforcement agencies that are not within our jurisdiction, we only cover the Albany Police Department. There is, at the state level, through the Attorney General's office, the Law Enforcement Misconduct Investigative Office. They do accept complaints on their website, and until there is a county level option, I just want members of the community to know that that does exist. And if there's information that you all need, we can definitely get that to you. But thank you both, Batman and Tony, for your community work this past month.
Chair Beavis, I have one question.
Yep.
As it relates to the community conversation series, not sure if we even know or not. So are we, the board being made abreast of that series? How do we find out where the others are being held? Because I know some of us found out last minute. So is there a way so that we can see when and how we can be able to attend those sessions?
Yeah, so as a part of my public official liaison committee report, I was going to say that I was going to restart my meetings, and I was going to reach out about those and actually bring it up as a topic. Can we get information about when they'll be and if there is an opportunity for us to participate in some way? So I'm not sure if there's any more this month, but I will definitely reach out to the mayor and the chief to find out and share the information. And thank you, Tony, for sharing.
Yeah, I just want to just state that I found out through the South End Children's Cafe. They actually had posters in their lobby stating that there was a community meeting, but I didn't, that was the only place I found out.
Thank you for that, Tony. Any other questions for Batman or Tony? All right, moving on. John, do you have a report from the investigation committee?
Yeah, I'll keep it short. So the investigation committee is meeting regularly with our investigators to have case updates with regards to the several investigations that are ongoing. One order of business that we discussed and we'll bring up later with the Inspector Gleason from TNM is about subpoenas that we're going to put a vote to today, but I'll let him talk about that. I also just want to thank our fellow member, Tony Santos, for being so organized and making sure that what we're doing without the permanent staff is, updated and relevant, because it's a big help for me to keep things organized, and in the long run, it's the only way we're going to have this transition to be successful. That being said, though we're not presenting, we are still individually all working on our investigations, working together to collaborate to make sure they're good standards. We're not going to publish or post or report until we have a staff member, so we can do this in the most efficient, professional way manner, and the only way to do that is with a permanent staff. So that's my report as it is, and I'll let T&M talk about the subpoenas when they come up.
Thank you, John. And thank you both, John and Tony, for, even though we are not processing cases in the same way, thank you for keeping that going and organized, like John said. So we definitely appreciate your work. Any questions for John? Moving on to our next report. Dr. Hardin, do you have a report from the Mediation Committee?
Yes, a short report, Chair Vivas. So we have two new organizations that have been put forth to the city, went through the board for mediation. So they're with Shaniqua and council right now so that we can move forward with having two different organizations identified for when appropriate cases that should go through to mediation can utilize. So more to come on that. Once we get the approval, per OPS's recommendation, that'll be the next step for OPS to meet the two mediation organizations we're contracting with so that they have a full understanding about who they are and what they do and answer those questions as was asked when Chief Cox came back. So that's it in terms of mediation right now.
Thank you. Any questions for Dr. Hardin on mediation?
Not a question so much, but thank you for what they do, for what you do, sorry. I do know that the chair of our Human Rights Commission for the City of Albany had an experience that was less than positive with APD, and he expressed reaching out to you specifically for mediation and to explore options and whatnot. So just a heads up that people are hearing about what you're doing, and they're definitely going to reach out to you in particular to kind of see what that process looks like.
Okay. Thanks for the heads up.
And I just have to echo that. Thank you for pulling the mediation together. Thank you for the work from APD. I know they did some focus groups on their side and other things. I would love to have a successful mediation program in Albany to, give a alternative route to the punitive or disciplinary side of what we do and start having some conversations and building back trust. So thank you. Dr. Hardin, moving on to Police Department Liaison, do you have a report from that committee?
And Chair Vivas, as you know, we had some issues with the links that have now been resolved during the last Police Liaison Committee. I know that you were able to join, but I think we just decided to wait to have the next formal meeting. Nothing was discussed. Was that right? I know you were able to join me and Tony had some trouble.
That's right. I want to say thank you to Detective Lieutenant Reddy for his patience. We did have a lot of technical issues that day, and somehow he and I were the only ones able to join. He was very patient and understanding, and I let him know once we get, working links and all the technical issues taken care of, you will pick those meetings back up. So thank you for that. Any questions for Dr. Hardin on Police Department Liaison Committee? Moving on to the Public Official Liaison Committee. My committee, as I said, I will be reaching out to Shaniqua and Brian to hopefully schedule a meeting for the end of this month and pick back up on our regular last Tuesday meetings at 4 o'clock with this committee. The biggest issue being the transition, the finalization of the discipline matrix. So hopefully soon I will have some more information for everybody on those topics. But that hopefully will be on Tuesday, March 25th at 4 p.m. Any questions for me on Public Official Liaison Committee? The last thing that I will say is I just want to make sure Emily has all the information on when our committees meet, so she can get acclimated to everything that's going on. So Emily will email you. So if there's something of interest, you can join in. Moving on, there's no items under old business, so I will move into new business for the consideration of subpoenas. And I think we have Marty Gleason with us.
Yes. Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. Thank you for having me. T&M is requesting a total of, or approval of a total of 5 subpoenas in 2 separate cases. The first case is CC 2023-013. This matter had its roots back in 2019 when a civilian complainant reported to APD that her very young daughter had been sexually abused. The complainant was not happy with the case handling on the part of the detective in the case. So we're asking now for 2 subpoenas, one for the police officer who took the original report back in 2019, and the other for the investigator, Detective Askew. He's a sergeant now, but he was a detective back in 2019. We actually made this request a while back, and we got it approved. We actually had subpoenas issued, but if you recall at the time, there was litigation, and members of the APD were not showing up for our investigative interview. So we wanted the litigation to run its course, which it did, and now we feel the time is right to reissue these subpoenas so that we can interview these 2 members of the APD. The second case was actually from an incident that took place in May of last year. It involved 3 members of APD in an incident that took place in Madison Park. There was an altercation that took place between 2 females, and the individuals who were involved in that altercation complained of the treatment they received from the police. So we would like to interview those individuals, a detective, a police officer, and a lieutenant, all of whom were on the scene. And again, we'd like to interview those individuals. So there are 3 subpoenas in that particular case. And that's it, unless you have any questions for me.
Thank you, Marty. So I'll separate the 2. The first for the consideration of the reissuance of the 2 subpoenas in CC 2023-013. Do we have a motion for those?
I make a motion that 2 subpoenas are reissued for CC 2023-013.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. I'm going to open it up for discussion. Does anyone have any questions for Marty? Hearing none. All in favor, aye, or raise your hand. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, so moved. Now moving on to the consideration of the 3 subpoenas in the Madison Park altercation. Do I have a motion for the approval of those subpoenas?
I make a motion for the 3 subpoenas with regards to the Madison Park altercation.
Thank you, John. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tony. Opening it up for discussion. Do we have any questions for Marty? Hearing none. All in favor, aye, or raise your hand. Aye. Any abstentions? Any opposed? So moved. Thank you, Marty.
Thanks, Marty.
Thank you.
And moving on to our next order of business, review of complaints. We have no items under that agenda, so that moves us into adjournment of tonight's meeting. I'm moving to adjourn tonight's meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.